Ghost of Spirit Bear by Ben Mikaelsen, Chapter 10. Cole wasn't able to talk with Peter during the day, but after school he caught up to his friend and gave him a big hug. "Who hurt you?" he asked. Peter shook his head. "It doesn't matter. You and I need to have a talk," Cole said. Peter shrugged as they headed away from the school grounds. For several long minutes, neither of them spoke. Peter kept his head down, and finally he muttered, "I did like you did. Every time I was picked on, I told the bullies. I'd report whoever touched me. It worked until I went into the bathroom and somebody shut off the lights. Then a bunch of guys started hitting me and kicking me. Was it Keith and his friends? It was dark, and they never said anything when they were beating me up," Peter said. "I'd be really pissed if Keith was one of them after you helped him." "Me too," Cole agreed. "Are you okay now?" "No, I'm not okay." Peter broke into tears. "I'm scared. Everything's messed up. I keep having nightmares, and I can't think straight. My parents always argue over me, and I don't think people will ever quit picking on me." Cole kicked angrily at a pine cone on the sidewalk. "I wish the whole school could be part of a circle. They should line everybody up around the football field and make them hold hands," Peter said. Cole stopped walking and stared at his friend. "What's wrong?" Peter asked. "Why couldn't the whole school gather around the football field?" Cole said. "Instead of a feather, we could pass a bullhorn because that's the only way everybody could hear. It wouldn't work because most kids won't hold hands with anybody." Cole thought a moment. Some kids would think standing in a circle was dumb, but they wouldn't have to join the circle if they didn't want to. "They could go sit in study hall instead," Peter said, looking up. "Do you really think it would work?" "We'll never know unless we try. Tomorrow morning, let's meet early at school and talk to Miss Kennedy." "You to tell her the idea?" Peter said. "I'm not so good at talking." "I will," Cole said. Peter looked at his watch. "Oh, crap, I gotta go. My parents are probably freaking because I'm not home from school yet." "Will they be mad at you?" Cole asked. Peter smiled. "I'll just tell them you beat me up." "Not funny," Cole said. As planned, Cole and Peter met at the school half an hour early the next morning and went directly to the principal's office. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice sounding tired and a little short. "We have an idea," Cole said. "I'm kind of busy this morning." "So are we," Cole said. "This can't wait." The principal motioned them briskly into her office. "How are you doing, Peter?" "Things are all messed up," Peter said, sitting down. She looked at Cole. "So what's so important?" Cole didn't know where to begin, so he just started talking, explaining their idea for a school-wide circle. Miss Kennedy listened, then studied both boys intently. "Wouldn't it be easier to just get everybody together in the gym and do the same thing? It would be—" Peter interrupted. "People in a circle have to look at each other." Cole nodded. "Peter's right. Everybody feels like they're part of a circle. They're not just sitting behind somebody else in an audience." Miss Kennedy shook her head slowly. "I can't require students to attend something like that. Let the rest go sit in study hall," Peter said. Almost pleading, Cole said, "Miss Kennedy, you said it yourself. All your changes don't mean anything if we don't change ourselves inside. You have this whole thing figured out, don't you?" "Yep," Peter said. "We figured it out." Miss Kennedy rolled a pen back and forth in her fingers, the way she had toyed with the feather in the circle. "Tell you what, let me think about your idea for a few days." "No," Cole said. "This has to be done right away while everybody's still thinking about Peter getting beat up and Trisha's suicide. Garvey said that when the ground is torn up, that's when seeds need to be planted. Right now the ground is really messed up." "It would work," Peter exclaimed. "I'll give your idea some thought. That's all I can promise," Miss Kennedy answered. "Now if you'll excuse me, I have a school to run." The announcement by Miss Kennedy came over the loudspeakers the following morning before the end of first period. "Since our last assembly, some of you have come to me asking what you can do. Well, today each of you will have the chance to share your ideas. At 9 o'clock, all teachers will bring their students out to the football field. We'll gather around the track in a big circle and talk. Any student not wanting to participate can report to study hall in the cafeteria." Cole almost shouted with excitement. Anticipation hung in the air as the students filed from the school, curious about why they were gathering around the football field instead of in the gym. Cole searched the crowd for Peter, but couldn't find him. Miss Kennedy waited on the field inside the track holding a bullhorn. "Everybody line up around the track in a single line," she directed. "Make a complete circle." With the usual confusion that comes from asking any large group to do something simple, the students clumped in bunches. Some kids jostled to stand next to their best friend, or refused to stand next to somebody they didn't like. "Spread out," called Miss Kennedy. "Form a single line around the track and face me." When they finally did, Miss Kennedy began. "Okay, everybody, listen up." The bullhorn sounded raspy, echoing across the field in the brisk morning air. "We have somebody here this morning who has agreed to come on very short notice and help you find ways to heal your school. I want to introduce Miss Holmes, a trained mediator here in Minneapolis." Cole recognized Miss Holmes, the keeper, from his circle. "Good morning," she began, speaking into the bullhorn. "I'm saddened by the reasons that bring us together today, but I'm encouraged that all of you are willing to gather like this to try and find solutions." Cole glanced around the circle, surprised to see how many had chosen to join the circle. Kids rubbed their arms and pushed their hands deep into their pockets to ward off the morning chill. Some were whispering and nudging each other, but most waited quietly. Keith stood between two younger students, not with his gang. He nodded to Cole. "I must say this is the largest circle I have ever been a part of," Miss Holmes said. "But our size makes no difference. We will pass the bullhorn around the field, and each of you will have the opportunity to voice your feelings if you wish. I ask only two things of you this morning. First, speak honestly from your heart. Second, respect whoever is speaking. If you can't respect others, you can't respect yourself. A school cannot heal without respect." Two girls near Cole giggled. One boy hit a lit cigarette. The keeper spoke calmly through the bullhorn. "People always fear what they don't understand and destroy what they fear. Students, your ignorance and fear have let you focus on your differences. Prove today that you aren't afraid. I want everybody, including teachers, to reach out and join hands. Everyone form an unbroken circle." A murmur erupted around the track. Some students hesitated and tried to move quickly next to somebody else. "Please don't change positions," the keeper said. "If students in the same school can't even hold hands, how do you expect countries to get along? It begins here." When the human circle was finally complete, the keeper continued. "I'd like each of you to take a moment and think of something you have done in the last 2 weeks that showed intolerance. Some moment when you didn't allow somebody else to be different from you." Everybody stood silently, some with closed eyes. In the distance, a siren wailed as the keeper continued. "Okay, now I want each of you to think of what you could do, starting today, to encourage tolerance in your school." "This is ridiculous," Cole heard one student complain. The boy left the circle to join several others who were heading back inside. The keeper ignored the few who were leaving. "Okay, feel free to warm your hands in your jackets. I'm going to walk this bullhorn around the track twice. First, I want to hear your feelings about what's happened and why you think we have such intolerance at this school. The second time around, we'll search for answers. But first, let's share our hurt. Remember, nobody is required to speak, but we all have the obligation to listen." The keeper walked to the nearest student and offered him the bullhorn. Cole watched with anticipation, holding his breath. The boy shook his head, embarrassed.